Hey every pony, Newly for a quick and huge thank you to all the wonderful and lovely ponies who've subscribed. Over 420 of you at this point. Anyway, without much ado, into the special every pony. This is a good one, it took me a while to do. Hey every pony, Newly here. And today we are here for the 400 subscribers special. I'll be drawing you the story of my life and how I became the Alicorn Stallion you have gotten to know over the past few videos and years every pony. So, one day, there was a mare and a stallion, and they decided to have foals someday, and thus there was, a blue alicorn colt who really loved doing magic and, had a thing for nature. It was something that he really enjoyed, and he was, also a very curious mind, especially as a young pony, and so he decided to set out and explore the world and learn everything that there is to learn. Let's see. But, of course, I think you may already know this one. I actually was not the only foal back then in this household, because I actually, had a brother back then, and he was, a little smaller and all, but he was just as crazy as me back then, if you know what I mean. He was also very into discovering things, but it was quite a different story, Abby Pony, so, wait. And yes, he was also a unicorn. Sheesh, almost forgot that. But eventually, you know, as ponies grow up and differences appear, especially if you have, a brother, he was more of the, let's make a little space here. Much better. So he was more the, thinking about, technical things, and especially gaming, every pony. Which y'all know, this is a pony gaming channel, so I guess some of it did color off. And he was into robots and all that, and if you all know me and you've followed this channel for a while, I have a, let's say, a very difficult relationship with robots. But me, on the other hand, I was more of the pony who, loved going outside, learning about nature, learning where everything came from, and just enjoy the beautiful sunny weather, really. And at least back then, I was already the more magical type of pony, and learned many spells, including teleportation and levitation, which is perfect to prank a younger brother, which I have, I suppose, done on many occasions. Especially if you're able to levitate a liquid every pony, which I managed to figure out very early. Yeah, let's just say I got my brother wet many a times, and he had to explain why he was the one who was wet and all, but it was all in good fun, every pony. Anyway, however, eventually ponies do grow up and move on in the journey of life, and so I say the next big milestone for me, which was, of course, the, day when I finally, after many years of patience and practice, where I managed to get my, Cutie Mark every pony, let's see, which is something like this. You've probably seen it a few times, and I suppose the story behind it is definitely one that you, must tell ponies, especially if you're trying to be inspired, which is something like this, two inverted triangles, every pony, one black and one white. But the story behind this Cutie Mark and how I managed to get that was actually kind of a dangerous one, and it was already sort of like a an indicator back then that me and nature were gonna have something a lot closer together. But there was a small pony, I think she was like a neighbor's foal or something. And she was sort of, you know, a small, typical, innocent, filly who loved exploring, and I think this was something that happened when she, like, came home from, school. And, let's see. I think this was a time when she, had to do homework, but she didn't want to do it, every pony. And thus she ran away, every pony. She ran away from her home, but, she did get herself lost in the forest, every pony, but that night, something very mysterious happened inside that forest. It was, a very dangerous night, every pony, because this night in particular, It was a very warm and hot summer, and suddenly, every pony, the forest had actually caught on fire, every pony. Yes, there was a big and large forest fire out that night, and well, their parents were worried because, you know, they thought they would never see their daughter again, and I guess that was the night when I really felt that I could, you know, go out there and feel nature in a different way and tell it to not hurt that filly, and thus, every pony, this little pony that you're watching right now set out. He wanted to make a difference, and not only save the pony, but he also felt this was as good as a moment as to ever to learn about the elements, every pony, because our world is comprised of many of them, every pony. I won't list every single element now, but fire is definitely one of the more intricate ones to me, and thus I managed to figure out how to control such powerful magic. And so, every pony, this magical cult, who is known as New Leaf, and back then did not have a Cutie Mark before this evening, figured out a way to move these flames and not only understand them, but feel them. Feel the warmth and feel the energy radiating from them, and thus I was able to push these flames away, every pony. And I was able to not only extinguish the fire, but control them, every pony, and thus, after 10 or so minutes, I was able to retrieve the little filly and get her back home. But I've also, you know, learned a lot about fire back then, how it spreads and what it needs to feed, and also how it all works, every pony, because fire is a very interesting thing and chemical reaction and all, but also a magical property for certain. But what I didn't know back then, until at least an hour later, is when I came back home, and, you know, all this fire stuff was gone, and I managed to tell my parents about everything, because you don't exactly get to save a filly out of fire and learn about fire magic every day. And I got to my house, or not my house, but my parents' house, and they were really, really, really ecstatic, every pony, because, you know, for a pony, it is a special moment when they get their Cutie Mark, because it sort of, you know, tells where pony's gonna go someday, and thus, I was given the Cutie Mark that I have worn ever since, every pony. But that was not the end of this story, every pony, because that day, I did get my Cutie Mark, but of course, it, you know, spread. Ponies saw the pony that was controlling the fire with his magic, and, yeah, not only was I given my Cutie Mark, but the little pony from the day before actually had, something on me that was probably gonna make me even more, noticeable, every pony, because, she of course didn't have any, you know, food or something to give, but she did come up with the idea of giving me, an accessory that would forever change my look, every pony, and that was the day that I had gotten my hat, every pony. Yes, a hat is a very special thing for ponies, and usually there's a story behind this hat, and, the ponies, or better said, her parents said it was like a thing for adventures, and they said that I was adventurous even though I was small, so they said that this hat was perfect for me. I never knew who made this hat, but I shall cherish this hat probably the most of any accessory that I have, every pony. It is that big to me, every pony. But of course, me having my Cutie Mark was by far not the end of my story, because, you know, for every pony, even if they grow up and get their Cutie Mark, eventually, especially for Unicorn, you go to, let's see. You go to school, every pony, of course, where it's all about tests and such, but in order to get to the school, every pony, you actually have to pass an entry exam and show the ponies there that you can actually do, well, do proper magic. And thus, every pony, after a few, contemplations, considerations, and a little bit doubt in myself, because even after everything that happened, I wasn't sure I was good enough. I wasn't always the confident one back then. That was my brother. He has all the confidence, but anyway, the day eventually came where I did try to get into this school, every pony. So with my Cutie Mark and my hat on my head, I eventually decided to figure out how this is done, you know, how ponies even get in the school and all, and what the entry test was like and all that. But surprisingly, it was something quite like a pressure test, every pony, where there's like a bunch of ponies there, and they're sort of like watching you. They, of course, back then, I was a little small, and they were really big and kind of intimidating, every pony, because, you know, I wasn't confident, like I said, and so I wasn't ready if I could, you know, keep up with the big ponies, but back then I already had done things that many ponies, well, considered to be a little out of the ordinary. Let's see, let's give this pony a really mean and nasty mane so it makes him seem like a big meanie, which in my eyes he was. And so, every pony, he told me to... let's see, what was that? I think he gave me an exam where there was like a table, every pony. There was a table, and there was a bunch of things, like I think one of them was a little barbell, then one of them was like an anvil or something. You know, a bunch of heavy gear, every pony. And then he told me that I need to levitate something, every pony. He told me to levitate one of these big objects and hold it in the air for a little bit, and thus I would be able to pass. And, you know, those objects were, you know, kind of heavier than me. But, every pony, when he told me to levitate something, he didn't consider that he was talking to the pony who's called New Leaf, and who comes up with his own logic and decides to change plans rapidly. So when he said that I was supposed to levitate something, oh, the thing that I had in mind to levitate was nothing other than the whole building itself, every pony. Let's see, it was, I think that had like a bunch of really tall windows, and it had like a little roof like so, and it was like a little box that had a bunch of windows. And for me, when he said I'm supposed to levitate something, this is the first thing that I came up with, every pony, is to levitate this. Let's see, it had a little balcony, and I guess it had another pillar over there. It was a little big building, but you get the idea. I was the pony who said that he should levitate that big building, and thus, every pony, let's just say all of this stuff was scattered all over the place. Things fell, windows broke, ponies in the neighborhood were wondering what was happening, and, well, me, I, of course, was just standing there and smiling really innocently, every pony, because that's something that, you know, I would do, is when something like this happens. I was, you know, the kind of little pony who was just standing there, sort of smiling, and he, was just like wondering if he just did good enough to, you know, actually make it, because I wasn't sure if I did. I mean, it was something big, but he told me something, and I wasn't sure if that something was big enough. And so the ponies were like, you know, judging me and watching me. Their facial expression became from frown to this more like, you know, perplexed look, as, you know, the kind of look that you have when something happened and you don't know exactly what it was. And he was astounded in so many ways, and I didn't know ponies could make that face, but needless to say, they let me in. It was a little bit of a rough one, but I think this was the perfect and leaf way for me to show these ponies that I can do a little bit of magic when I wish to. And thus, every pony, I was administered into the School of Magic, every pony. And so began the school part of me being a pony and growing up. And I don't know if humans have school, but I think and hope they do, because it can be fun school is, there's basically a big board. In the front where a teacher pony draws a bunch of things, and ponies sit there learning, such as me. I was usually the kind of pony who just preferred sitting in the front every pony because that's where you get the best view, and well, I guess my eyesight wasn't exactly the best either, so, I was sitting in the front and being the good pony who would learn everything and pay attention to everything that happened. Wait, that was supposed to be my hat, every pony. I'm not the best drawing pony, but we'll ironically get to something about drawing in a while. Anyway, I wore my hat and was just the pony who was casually and very patiently taking in everything that the teachers told me. And, it was kind of fun, but for the first time, this was like, sort of a changing moment. It is one of these things that if they happen, they change a pony, and, me having grown up with magic and getting into the school unlocked a completely new kind of pony, and that is when I started to become very, very confident, and I was just not levitating things anymore, every pony. That was old and, old to me, so I went all the way to eventually casting fireballs every pony, because that's something that is awesome. It's one of my more favorite spells, and you should know this if you've been watching my Followed Equestria playthrough. Anyway, I started casting fireballs. What else would you imagine? Oh yeah, there's, lightning, which is a very interesting and colorful magic type, but also a very dangerous one, and it is easy to get wrong. And for me, those were some very interesting elements, and I started to get really good at these, and soon I became quite proficient with my magic every pony, and it was not only something that I did because ponies do it, because, a lot of unicorns are magicians, but I did it because for me, it was something that I enjoyed, and it was something that I felt belonged to me, especially since I already had a Cutie Mark there, and since then, of course, I've been practicing my magic. I knew that magic was going to be something someday that was just not going to be a hobby, but it was going to be something that I could be one of the best, if not the best ponies ever, every pony. And for would-be to become magicians, there is a pretty popular way to get better, but also compete with other ponies, and that is through magic duels, every pony. You probably knew this one. And, I was getting confident with my magic and all because it was at school and all, but, of course, me getting to practice with other ponies and me being competitive as I was, this was probably where I started to get more into magic, because when you're magic dueling with other ponies, you also learn about what they're doing in terms of magic, and it's kind of a fun time passing, even if it's a little dangerous, but I was determined, every pony, determined to be the best at it, and, that's what I set out to be, because I started challenging random ponies for magic duels, but at some point I didn't really know who I was challenging. I did it for curiosity's sake, and one day I challenged none other than the pony who's captain of the Royal Guards, but of course I didn't know that back then. He's shining armor. Let's see if I can do this right. That's close enough. And let's just say it didn't go so well for him. He probably never expected to be beaten by a pony that was half his size, but he totally get beaten. And I didn't know about it back then, and he actually offered me to join the Royal Guards, every pony, to become part of these, but every pony, I don't usually do well with rules and rigor and all that, so New Leaf had a very clear opinion about this, and for me, the whole rules, and I prefer making rules rather than obeying them, so New Leaf said no, and thus I had to reject his offer, but I continued my studies, and this is for me at least, the whole thing with the guards, it was just, affirmation that I was, getting better at it, but I did enjoy the aspect of, helping ponies. It was something that I liked to do, And I also got to practice my magic, and for me, it got me curious, Every Pony. Got me curious in what other places my magic could possibly take me, Every Pony. And well, one of the places, of course, was me when I graduated, Every Pony. I had some of the best grades, and, well, probably was the best magician there, because no pony could really beat me in a duel, so for me, this was, a very happy and personal moment. But I wanted to move, Every Pony. I wanted to see what there is, and I decided to move out, Every Pony. Yes, this happens with ponies, and for me, let's see if I can draw this nicely. Yeah, from Canterlot you can go to many places, and one of the most accessible places from there by train would be Ponyville, which is the place that has the like little red roofed building, and then like, let's see, a little bit like this, and oh my gosh, this is the most horrible painting of the town hall ever, but you get the idea. I went to Ponyville, and I kind of wanted to live there for a little while and see what ponies are like, Every Pony, and thus another chapter of my life began. Which was fun, but also it was going to be me meeting a familiar face, Every Pony, because in Ponyville there's actually a relative of mine there, and she helped me a little bit find my hoofing there and finding a good place to stay in. But of course, her being Jasmine Leaf, Every Pony, she was able to, of course, help me find the perfect cup of tea, because that's what she does, Every Pony. You see, there's many ponies of the Leaf family to go around. I guess, another very notable one is, let's see, I think I got her Cutie Mark upside down, is Beauty Leaf, Every Pony. Let's see if I can make that like so. And there, wait. Sorry, Beauty Leaf, I got her Cutie Mark upside down. We shall fix it. Anyway, yeah, you get the idea. There's many Leaf family members, and I got to spend my time in Ponyville around them and gotten to get to know them very closely, Every Pony, and it was sort of, a very comfy way of, you know, growing up, Every Pony, because after school, you still sort of, like, try to figure things out, because they don't tell you everything in school, Every Pony, but for an exploring pony like me, this is not a problem. So I suppose the final thing of my story that I haven't told, and it's probably the most interesting one, Every Pony, is, well, I grew up, was good at magic. However, how did I get a pair of wings attached to my back, Every Pony? How did I end up becoming an alicorn? Well, that's gonna be, I think, the next big thing that we shall talk about, Every Pony, so let's see. So for that, Every Pony and human watching, I have to tell you about the place that is close to Ponyville, but it's also sort of a dangerous place, and that would be the Everfree Forest, Every Pony. There's a bunch of cursed trees, as ponies like to say, weird magic going about, and you get the idea. And there's also some very strange animals, Every Pony, like ghosts and a lot of other unnatural things that don't really seem to make sense to the naked eye, Every Pony, and even the time of day is confused in there, because sometimes it's sunny and sometimes it's moon in there, completely independent of what's happening outside of it, Every Pony. It is a very mysterious place, just to put that into perspective, but me being me and being the curious mind that I was, Every Pony, the Everfree Forest for me was something that I wanted to learn more about. And thus, Every Pony, the pony known as New Leaf set out on a magical journey into the Everfree Forest, because one day, I actually read a book and it said that the Everfree Forest and its chaotic magic that I told you about was actually spreading, Every Pony, and Ponyville is on the border of this forest, and, well, this book said that eventually the Everfree Forest may take over Ponyville and other parts of Equestria if it is not contained, and if, the nature in there isn't restored, and if a pony doesn't go in and find out how to do so. But the Everfree Forest is dangerous. Ponies go in there and sometimes don't ever return. And so, New Leaf wanted to go in, but also figure out the mystery and figure out what is going on with this weird forest and what is the secret of the Everfree Forest. Yes, that's essentially how to sum it up in one word and... oh wait, many words. Anyway, this forest, who apparently wanted to take over the whole of Equestria and everything that there is, every pony, had to be stopped somehow, and I was ready and thought I could handle it. And in order to stop it, I went inside there fully prepared with the knowledge about this place, but also with my magic every pony, and thus I managed to navigate past many monsters like cockatrices and even manticores, who have these like really sharp stingers every pony, but are like also have I think lion features. They're weird creatures, but every pony, you get the idea. I managed to get past these nasty kittens. Let's see, let's make him look like a mean kitten, like this. See, he was an angry. They were basically cats, but with really huge stingers and tempers, and with a bunch of well, let's say slightly harmless magic. And shocking, I got past some of these, and I stumbled upon a cave besides a few ruins. Of course, the castle of the two sisters is there, but there's something further into the forest, and this was actually home to an ancient spirit every pony. I didn't really remember her name, or I think she never told me, but this spirit said that there actually used to be a pony who watched over this forest, and that I actually, in order to stop this from spreading, in order from this forest taking over the world, I actually had to go to the Castle of Two Sisters, because back then they lived in that forest, and apparently there was a spell, a lot of, you know, how the two sisters got into a fight back then, and apparently they cast a spell back then in disharmony and anger, and a spell explosion back then is what caused this forest to go rampant, and there used to be a pony who took care of these things, but that pony wasn't around anymore ever since the two sisters got into a fight, and thus every pony, I had to complete a spell page and figure out a way to restore harmony every pony, which is where, you know, my alicornness came from harmony every pony, from, you know, let's see, I think this is, let's draw the human sign. I think this is like so, and then like this, and then you feel like this harmony. I hope I did that correctly. Anyway, I had to complete a spell book, and this was talking about something that was related to Discord, but also to the two sisters in a whole, and thus every pony, I completed the spell, and I was able to cast it thanks to all the training. It was a really difficult and tough task, but eventually I learned about harmony and completed the spell, and then the, let's see, the spirit every pony from earlier, she, yes, every pony, I think that was a mare, she saw this, and she said that I would be a worthy successor of a pony who would keep watch of nature and made sure that it was all in balance and harmony, and thus she decided to give New Leaf the ability to do so, and she said that that pony also used to be an alicorn, and thus she granted me a pair of wings that I still struggle with using. Flying has never been a very good and strong suit of mine, every pony, but eventually I did get these wings, and well, that's, I say, the most basic explanation of how I became an alicorn and became the pony you all know. And well, apparently, just like every alicorn, I have my own castle, and you'd be surprised, this is actually a castle which is on the edge of the Everfree Forest. Very fitting for a pony like me, by the way. And for those of you who say the Everfree Forest is actually really dangerous, it actually is not that dangerous. It's just a little different, and sometimes different isn't easy to understand, but it's actually all in fun times. And the Everfree Forest is definitely a nice place, even if it's a little mysterious. But eventually, you know, I managed to find myself in Equestria, get my wings and all that. But, you know, sometimes ponies like doing things for their free time, like magic. But also, I eventually decided to explore the human world and, or better said, interact with the human world. That's more like it. And I did so by deciding to find a platform where I could share my experiences, and thus every pony, I decided to make videos for you ponies and share things in Equestria that happen, and thus every pony is where New Leaf's life story concludes thus far, and yeah, we'll see how this goes, every pony. Also, I wonder how many ponies could guess how old I am at this point, because alicorn years work differently, every pony. I wonder, seriously, if any pony could guess that, we'll see if some pony deserves something special. We'll come up with something, every pony. But I suppose, every pony, with that, I thank all you lovely ponies so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. And remember, every pony, if you have a big story and want to inspire ponies, remember to tell every pony. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified whenever there's a new video. But of course, a huge thank you to all the ponies who have been following this channel and enjoyed the content as I have, because it's fun for you ponies watching, but it is also very fun for me to make such content, every pony.